Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to today's EURES webinar. So today the topic is going to be, as you can see, AI tools supporting job recruitment and matching. This is basically the second episode of a series that we started regarding AI. So, and as we received a pretty good interest in the topic, we decided to continue. So, as the first episode was more about explaining what AI is and how it works, now we will focus more on the implications and that AI has in our job. So in recruitment and matching. In particular, we invited here some really interesting speakers, and in order we will hear Mr. Joaquim FELIX from ELA, and then Ludger from SkillLab, Marion KALLAKAS from Werk, and Jānis KREILIS from Hyperscan. They will all introduce their tools concerning job recruitment and matching. And to make everything more interactive, you will be able also to ask questions. You can use the comment section on the right side of the video. You can type any question. Just remember first to write the name of the speaker you want to address, and then after everybody will be finished with their presentation, we will have a short coffee break, more or less around 11:15. And after that, there is going to be a moderated discussion where we will go more into deep of AI tools and the implications they have in the recruitment and the matching process. I will also paste in a while a link for those who cannot write in the chat. So using this link, you can also you will be able also to ask questions to the speakers. And without further ado, I will I thank you again for attending. Of course, this meeting is being recorded, so you will be able to watch it also later, and you can also suggest it to your colleagues. And I will give the word first to Mr. Felix from ELA. Good morning, Joaquim.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joaquim FELIX from ELA. I work in the governance unit. I'm a digitalization policy expert, engaged in promoting digitalization in member states, digitalization in the area of labor mobility. With me, I also have my colleague, Sofia. Sofia is a trainee here at HEL in the governance unit as well. She's helping all of us to promote digitalization in the 27 member states and their national authorities. So I have a short presentation for you where I will speak a little bit about the work that ELA has been doing with regards to digitalization. It's a very high-level presentation. It's not as detailed because we don't, as it should be, as it could be, because we don't have enough time for that. But I will start the presentation then and share my screen. So the the work that ELA has been doing to promote digitalization, and specifically the use of artificial intelligence digital tools, started in 2022. Along I think now it's working. Yes, sorry for that. Apologies. The work streams that ELA has been doing, they include all units from the agency. So we do market studies, surveys, we have calls for good practices, we do capacity building with regards to the tools from the European Commission. And very recently, we organized all those activities in 3 cluster segments. We clustered the activities so that these activities could be more comprehensive, not only for us internally, but also for our external stakeholders. So we have the Digitalization Knowledge Hub, which includes activities and projects mostly carried out in partnership with the European Commission. So we provide capacity building for member states to better use SC system and also IMI. We have the Innovation Facilitator segment, which includes activities and initiatives aimed to improve knowledge and practical experience, such as the market studies, such as the tech conference, the call for papers, the call for good practices. So with that, we engage with national authorities, but also with private companies and academia with regards to the call for papers and the tech conference. We also have the Information Hub segment, which include activities and projects targeted at citizens, employers, and other ELA stakeholders seeking information on labor market conditions and rules. In here, we include EURES activities with and the work that EURES does. Regarding the market studies on innovative digital tools in member states, the results of those studies, they feed into the technological workshops with IT specialists from member states, where we showcase innovative digital tools. In different years, we try to use different topics, but I will give you more on that soon. We are also starting a new initiative, which is the ELA Tech Labs, where we pick one of these digital use cases and we use them to do a demonstration on how to build such digital tools before an audience of IT specialists from other national authorities. This is a new activity that will start next year, which should also be very interesting for national authorities working in labor mobility. And then we have the call for papers, which is open to the public, citizens included, academia, private companies, and member states. And we use these papers that we identify in the ELA Tech Conference. The ELA Tech Conference, the first one was very generic. The second one was focused on artificial intelligence, where we were able to have the presence of 2 of our speakers presenting their paper and their digital tool. So, and just to give you one overview of the market studies that we do exclusively with national authorities. We can see that we started with very general topic, such as innovative digital tools. In 2023, we focused more on artificial intelligence, especially because we also had the AI Act approved that year. So it was interesting. And then in this year, which is still ongoing, is the study on automation and interoperability. And those the results or the findings that we had in those surveys and studies were used for the technological workshops. And then they will also be used or leveraged to build the ELA Tech Labs, which are practical demonstrations. Moving forward, I would like to share you a few figures. I know that this is very dense. it needs time to digest, but it's obvious that we were able to grow from one year to the other regarding the responses that we have and the feedback from member states. And also very good participation from public employment services at national level this year, in this year's survey. Moving forward, I would like to touch the most important thing for this webinar. The call for papers, the open call for papers that HALA hosts, is targeting several audiences. In the first call for papers in 2022, based on innovative digital tools, we were able to identify Werk as a very good tool that was already using artificial intelligence to provide the sector with jobs and skills matching in a very efficient way, effective and efficient way. And then next year we had the call for papers, and we were able to identify also Hyperjob, which is also with us today. And these papers that we got really made us understand that artificial intelligence, although the AI Act could have some impact on them, are here to stay, and they play a very important role when it comes to jobs and skills matching, because it doesn't provide you with a process to identify an exclusive job for you, but it does what a clerk would do or yourself would do in a much faster way to identify potential opportunities, job opportunities. This year, the call for papers is focusing on automation and interoperability, and the call is still open. So you have the QR code here if you want to submit a paper. We will, just one disclaimer, we will be postponing the deadline to the mid of December. So feel free to participate. It's open to anyone. Regarding the artificial intelligence topic, which could also include machine learning and related technologies to artificial intelligence, in 2024, not only we were able to find the two of the speakers or two of the solutions that are going to be presented here, we are also able to understand how much not only the private sector was investing on this, but also the public administrations from the member states. Here you can find the few of the papers, especially the ones that were using artificial intelligence. And I also provide here a QR code to Ella's website, so that you can read more about these papers that we received and that were presented during the Ella Tech conference in 2024, earlier this year in Madrid. And also, again, a QR code if you want to participate in this year's call for paper. I think, Jean Claudio, I think I'm closing in on my time. So I think I will stop here and thank you all for listening, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joaquim. Thank you.
I will now stop sharing. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for this interesting introduction. So now it's time to jump in, in directly on the tools. As you can see, their importance also in Ella's context. So the importance Ella is giving to such tools is growing. If you have any questions for Joaquim, of course you can type it in the comment section or in the link that I pasted in the comments. We can start with the first speaker, that is Ludger from SkillLab, a tool from the Netherlands. So good morning, Ludger.
Good morning. Nice to be here. I can't see the audience, but you said there are many people watching and listening in. So it's great to showcase what we do. Share my screen. This works. Great. Then, well, a little bit about myself. I'm working for SkillLab almost 4 years. And before that, I worked many, many years at Randstad Staffing, HR Solutions, maybe known to you. And over 20 years ago, I had the opportunity to start the first internet companies over there. And since then, I've been working in matching, making matching algorithms and IT matching engines, IT solutions for labor market challenges. I'll tell you why I joined SkillLab later on in the presentation. SkillLab is based in Amsterdam. We are, our mission is connecting people with jobs and education. And our ambition is to become a leading tech company that leads transitions toward a skill-based labor market. Today we are with 55 nationalities. And as it's difficult to find programmers and good developers in the Netherlands, we are about with 30 different nationalities working from different countries, but mainly our office is in Amsterdam. We do projects in over 30 countries, and I'll show you a little bit about that later. So basically our solutions for employment services and employment projects is based on 4 different components. And the main component is, of course, the application, mobile application for job seekers, where they can capture skills, explore career and jobs, and generate their own CV. And we do that based on, at least in Europe, based on the ESCO taxonomy. And as soon as you capture more and better data profiles, skill profiles of your job seekers, the employment services get a much richer profile to base their advice and career advice on, or to do their placement. For education providers, we have a portal where we can map skills to training contents. So you can also show if a job seeker has a certain gap in skills, which trainings would fill that gap. And for employers, we have basically 2 things. One is to make skill-based vacancies, so they can start and type in their own vacancy name and then enrich it with ESCO skills. And the other part is that we have a solution where you can see a pool of candidates. You don't see names or where they come from, but you just see skill profiles. And as soon as you're interested in a candidate, you can choose from there. So as said, we started in 2017 when about 1 million Syrian refugees came to Europe. And that's why we said we need to build a mobile application, because nobody's running around as a refugee with a computer. Of course, this scales and is responsive to other platforms, and it works on a tablet or a computer, but mobile first was our focus. As said, we use the ESCO taxonomy, but in the US we now work with ONET, and in the Middle East we work with a local taxonomy in Arabic language, of course. People fill in their skills from jobs, from education, but also from life experiences. So taking care of elderly people, or having a family, raising kids, but also managing the football team or the basketball team. You gain skills in much more areas than only education and your job. And very important, what we see in many projects is that a lot of people don't sit down to make a proper CV. So helping them drafting a CV in this tool is already really helpful. As said, the employment services, they have, of course, access to those skills, and they can basically see how their candidates match to the vacancies. They can schedule, like in a WhatsApp, they can schedule and communicate with their job seekers or the beneficiaries, and come up with ideas for careers, and also find educations to fill certain gaps. Then for the training providers, basically we look at the text which describes the training, and our machine learning and AI connects that to skills. There we are pretty confident that we come up to 60 to 80% of the right skills, but a human has to check this and sometimes add skills in the system. You just can drag and drop them, and sometimes we miss some skills. And basically this tool also works for employers. You start with your own job title, then we ask in the taxonomy which job titles are close. We fill then in the skills, and then you can click on and off what you think is necessary and find other skills that are necessary for your vacancy. Here you see the whole picture. You have job seekers using our mobile application. They build a skill profile. We can do that in 28 languages. So we also have Arabic and Ukrainian. I worked on a project with Ukrainian refugees in the Netherlands, but we also do that in Finland and in Ireland. And it's really easy to make your own profile in your own language and hand out a Dutch or English or Finnish resume. It bridges the communication gap between the job seeker and the career counselor. Here in employment services, we work with national employment services, with municipalities, but also with many NGOs. I'll show that later also. Then the employers can look into candidate pools, and very important, of course, all these data brings you a massive ton of labor market intelligence. A government could advise a new company, oh, you better focus to invest and build your company in that place, because there we have the skills you need. And as said, the education sector also gets a lot of data and understanding of skills needed in the market. And then we come to the AI approach. Basically, we took all the 14,000 skills and knowledge concepts of ESCO, and it's of course impossible to ask somebody 14,000 times, have you done this? Have you experience in that? Did you learn that? And that's where we use AI. So basically, the artificial intelligence draft for every person a own job interview, skill interview. And based on your answers, if I say, no, I don't have these skills, the AI goes into another direction and tries to find out more and more. Of course, that's fed by earlier jobs you did or a certain education. And I hope that in the future we can even speed up this interview by having more data underneath. But that's what we are building over the last 5-6 years. Then in all those different countries, what we see is we do projects from Finland to South Africa, from mid-Mexico to the Philippines. I think that most things that we learn, that for the people that are not on LinkedIn, and there are many, they have difficulty to build and to make a good CV, especially when you dropped out of school or you have certain short job experiences. Then you don't have the confidence to sit down and make a CV. And what we see in the many projects in Mexico and the Philippines is that people are helped, and sometimes for the first time in their life, they have a paper on which is written which skills they have, instead of in their mind that they could make a resume. So it's building self-knowledge, helping people to get a bit more confidence and to see where jobs are in their reach. One of the biggest projects at this moment we do with the State Employment Service of Ukraine. As you can imagine, it's very difficult still with so many internal displaced people, not only in refugees in other countries in Europe where we work with them, but also in Ukraine. There are many displaced from east to west. But the State Employment Service still services these people and also companies. And okay, the internet is going down now and then, and the electricity is going down now and then, but it's more safe to build up a digital profile and help the job counselors in their advice to their job seekers. We do this project together with the Norwegian Refugee Council and the World Bank. This is an example of a group 1524, not in employment, education or training. What I said, people with a lot of skills, but no finished education or a lot of different job experiences. And yeah, here we also see that they are really helped by drafting that first skills CV just by playing with the app and answering questions. Yeah, I think I'm almost done. If there are questions, then
thank you, Ludger. So I already see some questions in the chat. First of all, they ask again, what's the name of the app? Of course, it's...
Well, you cannot download the app, because we think that the data that the app generates gives job counselors a much better profile to work with and to base their advice on, career advisors, job coaches. So we always work via career advisors, job coaches in municipalities and employment services or NGOs. The app is free for the job seekers, but our business model is towards the employment services, especially because they get better data, but their process improves and they have less time in drafting that first CV.
Thank you. So I hope this answered the questions in like from the audience. I check if there is any other question coming. Of course, if somebody has questions also for later, you can type them in. All right. So far, we don't have any additional question. So thank you very much, Ludger, and of course, we will hear more from you in the moderated discussion. So thank you very much for the really interesting presentation. So we can. Oh, sorry. I see another question just that came in now. So they ask, this free app for job seekers is SkillLab. So the app for job seekers is called SkillLab, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I will give the word now to Marion KALLAKAS from Werk. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
So please feel free to share your screen.
Yes, right away. Right. Hope you can. Yeah. Right. Okay. So hi, I am Marion, co-founder of Werk, and what we do is that we built an AI that can verify people's competencies in industries like construction or manufacturing. So highly skilled manual labor. And a bit of a background as well, why such a tool is very much needed on the market, is that, as we know, there's a shortage of labor that is only growing, especially in sectors that need specialists, in construction and manufacturing especially. So what the shortage of labor means actually is that we have a misallocation of labor, meaning some countries have surplus of skilled workers you need, and some countries have a shortage. So you resort to cross-border recruitment. But in construction, for example, we have 40% of workers on European construction sites already today migrant, and it's only going to grow with the labor shortages. And we have also seen statistics that there's hundreds of thousands, like 600,000 migrant workers entering the job market in Europe every year. So many of those workers are in a highly specialized fields like healthcare, manufacturing, construction, and so on. So the jobs which require qualifications and jobs where basically competency matters very much. But problem with cross-border recruitment is that it is very tricky. It is tricky to get the competency, to find the competency from a large candidate pool. So I have seen it recruiting myself. I've spoken to many companies trying to recruit abroad, and the problem is that currently the solution is going to a recruitment partner. So let's say you are a construction company in Germany, you need very specialized welders, for example, shipbuilding or commercial plastering. So you look for a recruitment partner, let's say in Romania or any other country, and then you are tied to that recruitment partner. So what often happens is that this recruitment partner has other recruitment agencies working under it. So now you have kind of lost the control of the recruitment channel, and you have lost the quality control. And also, of course, you need to check that there's no doubt of human trafficking and other social problems like that. But finding the quality people is very difficult because you're looking for people to highly paid specialist jobs. So you have a candidate pool of hundreds of people in a matter of days applying for these jobs, but 90% of them are not qualified. So you rely on this recruitment partner often that has no experience in your industry or recruiting people for your company specifically. So the matching rate is very low. we have companies saying that they hire from abroad from recruitment agencies, and 50% of candidates arriving to their country to work are sent back in a matter of a month. So this is very costly for the companies, and it's not the best solution for the workers either. So what we built is an AI that can very quickly, in a matter of minutes, identify people's skill levels, especially in construction and manufacturing, but of course it can be used in other sectors as well. And how we built it is that we built it together with companies who are hiring these workers. So not recruitment agencies, but actually construction companies, their supervisors. And we built an AI agent that acts as a very experienced construction manager. So in a matter of minutes, it identifies strengths in a person's skill level and also the weaknesses, and can match them in crews in your company. And this is hundreds of times more accurate than manual vetting of people. You don't need to do interviews with candidates, and it also operates in any language. So for example, how it works is that the assessments follow a worksite processes, so it imitates the actual work that the person will be doing on your site and assesses them. Our AI grades their knowledge as an experienced supervisor would. So there are different kinds of questions you can ask. You can show materials, you can show blueprints, you can show videos. There's also scenario questions, and our AI is trained to grade them as if AI was your own employee looking for workers. And how we've also made sure that the quality in the AI grading is that, yes, we use the companies who are recruiting, but also we're partnering with material suppliers who have their own training materials and the specifics about their products, and know how to assess people, whether they are certified to use their products. For example, plastering boards, fire protection, and so on. And what we also do is that we gather the skill data on a worker's so-called skill passport, and we attach to it its visa, worker's visa, and other certificates that are needed in the country of work. And this follows the worker through different projects and through different employers. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Really interesting. Of course, I encourage the audience to ask questions in the chat box in YouTube, and also using the link to Slido. So as we are a little bit in delay, questions might arrive a little later, but don't worry. After we finish all the presentation, we will do another round of Q&A before the coffee break, just to make sure all questions are answered. So so far I don't see any question. Let me see. All right, so they may arrive later, so we will address them at the end of the overall presentation. So thank you again, Marion, for your presentation. So also with you, we will continue later with the Q&A session and the discussion. So now we can continue with the next speaker, which is Jānis from Hyperscan.
Hi everyone, good being here. Thank you, Gian Claudio. Yeah, hoping you hear me.
Yes, we can hear.
I'll share my screen as well and give you a bit of an intro to Hyperscan. Let me just see. Right. So Hyperscan is a system that solves what we call a problem of unstructured data. So in the case of recruitment, be it if you're looking for people proactively using databases like LinkedIn, or if you're searching through resumes, what you're dealing with is unstructured data. On one side, you have very specific requirements you're looking for when you actually try to find your candidates, right? On the other side, you have databases with quite rigid filters. Right. So you have, for example, on LinkedIn, you have very specific things like, job title filtering. You have industry filtering. You can use sort of keyword matching to try and find people out of there. But if you ever try to actually use the search, you're always stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Either you are quite lax with the filters, which ends up then, you having hundreds, if not even thousands of those search results, and you have to go through them manually, right? Because you have very specific things in mind you're looking for that you cannot search for. Or you can go very creative with these Boolean searches, look for very specific keyword combinations. And chances are you're going to end up with like 5 people on the list. And obviously then you will not see the ones that are kind of thrown overboard. So we solved that problem by replacing this manual task of having to go through profiles looking for these signals with AI. And the way that works is here I can show you a very simple project I've set up. We are very conscious about not displaying the personal data of people we don't know. So you'll see us, the 3 co-founders of Hyperscan, and our dear wives who have given us permission to actually share their data. So, but obviously, it's not a system that is meant for scanning 6 people. Obviously, you could scan thousands of people to find that gem that you're looking for. But anyway, just to show you the principle, we have added 6 profiles here from LinkedIn, and we have added 6 kind of questions, right? We have added, like, for example, is this person a startup founder? Do they mention any expertise with AI? Let's say, have they lived outside of Latvia? You can literally, because that's where we're based, right? You can literally ask anything that an intelligent person could actually deduce from looking at their profile. Have they worked in anything related to health, insurance, and banking? These are the some that I found. And the AI will mark every profile as a fit or not fit just in that category, right? So we are not making an assumption about the person or their entirety, or like sort of whether they're a match or not for any specific position. What we're doing is we're helping you, as I said, structure this unstructured data into, it's like, yes, I have a filter. Please show me all the startup founders. Well, here they are. Our wives are not into startups. We are in AI, right? But 4 of us have lived outside of Latvia. And one of us, Agia, Roberts' wife, she's a doctor, right? So she's the only health professional in this list, obviously. None of us have worked for insurance, but both Roberts and Eva actually have done banking. And of course, this is kind of the overview table that we can do. So imagine if you have 1,000 people, and for example, you want to filter something out, you can try and do, okay, let me just show me the startup founders who have worked in banking. The overlap is 1 person out of 6, right? But imagine again, if you had 1,000 people like this, you can sort of easily pick out like small subsets of the data. And hey, let's check out Roberts. This is basically his profile, that the public data that is associated with it. And we can easily see him. We're also pulling in information from the public pages of the companies on his profile. So we can also read what Hyperscan is. Plus, this information is available for the AI to analyze. So that means you're kind of unlocking a wealth of information for this analysis to happen. And here we can see full explanation of why the AI thinks that, hey, Roberts might be a startup founder, whether they mention expertise with AI. So Hyperscan, for example, right? Have they lived outside of Latvia? So there's Stockholm and Sweden. And if we look here, obviously, Bayes Business School, nothing in health, nothing in insurance. He's worked as a finance analyst at JP Morgan, right? So that would obviously make sense, right? That he has experience related to banking. And what we can do here, for example, is then we can sort of check that, yes, actually, I see these green flags. I check Roberts, I can click on approve, and now he has moved into the approved section. Then I can reset the filters and make another splice, and then sort of easily work through a large data set. Of course, you can add questions here. We have a question bank. You can also do negative questions. For example, if you're specifically not looking for freelancers for the specific position or so. And the way you add people is several ways, right? You can use LinkedIn. We integrated with it using the extension here. So if I do this, for example, let me just show you. If I, let's say, do a search project and I start with any version of LinkedIn, I can use the extension to just import the profiles here and sort of enrich them with the data. I can also do, if I just have specific LinkedIn URLs, this is one of our teammates, actually, Eddie, so you could do something like this and just import a profile below. Or the next thing, of course, is if you're dealing with a project that has CVs or resumes, you can actually upload those files as well by doing something like this, just dragging and dropping files. And specific integrations with your applicant tracking system is coming as well, right? So we'll be able to pull in information for analysis very quickly. And, the same thing then applies, we have scanned these with these 5 questions or 6 questions. We haven't done Eddie's and myself, my resume yet. But of course, once the system is done preparing the profiles, then, we'll be, there it is. So we can sort of proceed and scan 2 of these. And now my, alter ego or my CV and Eddie's will be joining us here in the scan section in just a couple of seconds. So the benefit is, to give you one example, is we were recently working with a company that needed to look for a person who had experience in video game design and physical building architecture. So as you can imagine, probably that overlap is very, very small. It is literally the needle in the haystack. So that's one of the bigger use cases, is finding really uncommon profiles where Hyperscan really excels. I ended up scanning about 10,000 people in Northern Europe and London and found about 50 potential matches, out of which 20 were invited to an interview, and they made the actual hire from that. So that's the one. The other use case is, and what we also tell recruiters, I love the Dutch saying, the sheep with the 5 legs, right? So basically, that's like kind of an impossible to find unicorn somewhere. With Hyperscan, what you can do is you can actually be very specific. You can ask up to 20 questions, and maybe you will find one of those sheep, right? Like maybe there's one with 5 legs, right? But you can tell your hiring manager easily, hey, I looked at, or we used AI to look at 5,000 people, and there's one with 5 legs, but there's like 100 to 4 legs. What do you want to do, right? So it's kind of like this data analysis tool. And my final remarks on here would be, we're very conscious about the role of how AI, like what AI plays in the recruiters or talent specialists day to day. And what we are, and by the way, just interestingly here, right, my CV is outdated. It doesn't have anything about AI. So yeah, of course, here's the bad fit. So that would explain it. But we're very conscious of this. So we are not we're kind of keeping the talent specialists in the driver's seat. We don't want to do things like, Jānis is an 87% match. This is very explainable. We're very conscious of the upcoming AI Act as well in Europe, where, it's like, how did you make a decision? It's like, well, I had these 4 green flags, then I checked the profile, right? And even every flag has an explanation. We don't want to, our goal is not to replace the recruiter. It's basically a nice little intern that can look up information very, very quickly, and then give you that information, provided you in a format that is easily accessible, where you can make the decisions based on that information. If there's anybody in the audience who would like to try this out, we have a free trial. Obviously, I would love to hear your feedback. This is a fairly new product. This is already version 2, but we always welcome more customer product suggestions. So with that said, I'm open for questions. Love to hear from you. And
Thank you, Jānis. Thank you very much for your presentation. So again, I encourage everybody to ask a question using the comment section or Slido. So I see already a question for you, Jānis. So how do they get the permission to scan the data on LinkedIn profiles?
So yes, LinkedIn's users can indicate whether they're like allowing to have like public profiles associated, right? So if that data is available to a recruiter who's on LinkedIn, then we operate with that data. We don't build any other enrichment in terms of looking at other databases, combining it with other data sources. So we want to keep it, as minimal data use as possible. Again, being conscious of GDPR. So what we do is basically mimicking the way a recruiter would work with these profiles, right? They would go through them, they would try to answer these questions and have some sort of a mark. So that's basically it, like that's so if the recruiter has permission to view the profiles, it kind of by extension, then we use AI to help them kind of structure this data in a neater format.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So maybe as a follow-up, right? We don't take in any contact information unless the person has specifically put in their LinkedIn profile that is like available for access. So.
Okay, great. So I have another question for you. So as the program filters specific information and data, does this mean the structure or design of the CV does matter? In other words, is there any kind of ideal structure of CV which would match the inquiries from the AI?
Sure. So here the structure wouldn't matter as much because we're using a large language model on the back end. So as long as the text is there in some sort of a logical flow, the models will understand what we're trying to do. What we haven't done yet, because the CV scanning is a new feature, we cannot yet scan CVs that are, for example, PDFs, where instead of having text in them, there's just one big image. But we are upgrading that with the optical character recognition now. So, but even in that case, we will not hide anybody, right? So if that kind of a CV comes in, it'll just go to the unavailable for scanning, and a person will be always able to check for them manually, right? So we want to be very fair and kind of complete in what we do and transparent. So yes, but this is actually a really good question, because in the old days, this kind of a CV matching was built more on less sophisticated models. There was some machine learning involved. So sometimes structure was really important. The right keywords were very important, right? Because that was the basic machine learning. Now with the new large language models, it is becoming less important because it does analyze the entire context and looks for like similarities of meaning. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question for Ludger, so for SkillLab. In the meantime, Jānis, can I ask you just to stop sharing? So yeah, thank you. So the question is concerning SkillLab. Is it an official partner of ELA, and is it like somehow connected with the EURES portal?
We are an official partner of EURES in the Netherlands, and we did a lot of work. As you know, you go through a tender and you need to fill out many forms and questions. But we are partners since 3 years now, I think. And of course, one of our ideas was to connect to the EURES vacancy database. So if a refugee from, for instance, Ukraine comes in Poland, then it would be great to have all the vacancies in Europe available and say, okay, if I go from Poland to Sweden or to France or the Netherlands, I can find that and that job. Unfortunately, we are not able to connect yet. That had to do with changing APIs at ELA side. But we had several talks about that. So it's possible to connect there.
Thank you. Another question also for SkillLab. So is there has EURES? So I think the question is like, is it somehow the tool using also EURES? Like, is it somehow connected with EURES?
It's not connected with EURES, but they're the same question. EURES works with the ESCO skills also. So on that level, on the taxonomy level, we could easily integrate.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I think there are some general questions for everybody. So can AI understand the difference in cultures when it comes to applying to another country? So, for example, you know, there are differences in like drafting a CV or some information that in some countries are asked and some not. Can like these tools make this kind of difference? I think,
if I may.
Yeah, sure. You can start.
In our platform, you can choose colors. You can choose to include a picture in a resume or not. And we see that is different in different countries. In some countries, you definitely need to have a picture on your resume. And in other countries, it's less usual. So we can adapt to certain levels of cultural needs in a country. Can the AI see the differences in culture? Well, I think there will be one day that AI might be perfectly fine doing that. It's about feeding the large language models. It's about bringing in other contexts and information. I think today that's not really the case. That you can see the difference in culture, and basically that's also why we think that it's important that you cannot download the app. As said before, we work through career counselors, career advisors, and they are the national cultural guiders in that respect.
Thank you. Jānis, Marion, you want to also address a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
I make a quick comment. The way we have set up Hyperscan is to be a factual helper, right? So you would ask factual questions, and so then the culture or the way you've set up the resume, for example, or CV, plays a lesser role because the AI reads the content. It doesn't really see like, oh, there's a picture or there's, a weird font being used. So actually it can help you with this early bias, at least giving the right kind of flags if the information is there. So, but again, the information has to be there for it to give that flag. So then I guess the difference in cultures is like what kind of a CV or resume you build. That does it describe what you've done? Does it list your achievements? Does it, and does it basically match the expectations of the person then asking these questions to look for specific things? But again, it's not the function of the AI inherently. It's basically just matching the culture of the employer and the culture of the person, like basically using this resume as a communication material.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would add that in our case, CVs don't really work in our industries like construction, manufacturing, blue collar workers. So we match based on real skill data that we gather, like real skill data. I mean, the assessed skills that we assess that they have. And we have taken into consideration that written articulation is also problematic in these industries. So yes, I would say over half of people who do the assessments have no problem writing out their answers in open field. Our AI takes into consideration typos, for example, slang in their native language. So they answer the questions in their own language, and the employer gets the results in their language, what they need. But for the candidates, they can also answer in jargon, which is very common in construction and manufacturing. There can be typos, but also they can do a recording. They can just like speak in the phone, and we do a transcript, and the AI then grades that transcript.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really interesting to see the different approaches and how like these kind of tools kind of tackle different issues, different ways of having the data. So we have CVs or just skill assessment, where like it's interesting to see how many implications do you have and how many data you have to consider. Before going to the coffee break, as we are a little bit in time, last question, like general question. So how does the tool, your tools, how can they benefit the job centers? So as our audience is, so today is the EURES network, how can the tool benefit the job center if it can be also used by job centers somehow? So feel free to answer. I don't know if you who wants to go first.
Shall I?
Sure.
Well, I can imagine that somebody working for EURES in Ireland is looking for certain candidates, and they open up a link or a website, and they find people from abroad, from Spain or from Romania or other countries. Then I think with our tool they could easily get a profile and get basically the skill data of the candidate that's looking for the vacancy. In that perspective, it could help.
Thank you. Jānis, you wanted to go next?
Yeah, sure. We have already kind of had discovery talks, I suppose, with the state unemployment agency in Latvia about like the method that we're using, right? Like how that could be helpful. And again, they have agents, right, working. There's like people and there's specific jobs. So, again, given the agent, like the agency workers then can actually, employees, like they can act as a recruiter on their partner's behalf and use this kind of approach that we have on Hyperscan, like looking for very specific profiles out of a very large database. And we do have plans, as I said, for deeper integrations where you could literally just scan your entire database, or you would do your basic search in your internal database and then pull out, like, let's say these are the 3,000 profiles that seemed kind of interesting. Let's analyze them deeper. So it will be a direct implementation even for the agencies in this sense.
Thank you very much. Marion, please.
Yeah, in our case, it would be a quality tool. So you don't need to have specialists in welding or any type of construction in-house, which is really unrealistic to have. But you can actually assess the quality of workers as if the customer, the construction company, was hiring by themselves, and do it really, really quickly and in any language. without actually having the recruiter or the worker in the job center having a knowledge of that language. And we're also in Estonia, we are working on a pilot with the government, the police and border guard in the visa processes. When companies are hiring from abroad, they need to present the skills certifications. Now, these qualification papers don't actually say if the worker is a specialist in their field or not. They're in several different languages. They're just a paper scanned document, and the police and border guard has to make a decision that a specialist is now coming to the country. So now we are working on a pilot with them to make it digital, and instead of collecting these paper documents, they can use a digital work assessment as a proof of being a specialist.
Yes, thank you very much. So last question before we go to the coffee break. They ask some more like technical questions. So how do you, which models do you use to train your tool? Just like,
we haven't built our own model. We are relying on OpenAI's latest 4.0 series of models. So but we've tested also in the backend, experimented with Anthropic's Claude series of models. So,
thank you. I don't know if Ludger or Marion wants to.
Yeah, for us the same. It's open large language models. As you maybe saw on one of the slides, we won some Google prizes at the start of the corona, which helped us not only to survive during the corona period, but do also a lot of learning. So they not only sponsor in money, but they are sponsoring in trainings and learnings.
Thank you.
Yeah, in our case, the same. We rely on OpenAI. We didn't build our own model.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I think we can head to the coffee break like 10 minutes earlier than expected. And then we come back for the moderated discussion. So don't leave the webinar. We will be back in 10 minutes. So let's say at 11:17 Central Europe time. And see you in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hello. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your coffee or tea. We never know. So now it's time for a little discussion about the topic of AI, and in particular, okay. So sorry, it was the audio from the other computer. We can start with a few questions. I see also that from the audience came some question related to the discussion we are having, so good that we will also answer that. So we will go more into deep about the use of the tools in general in the labor markets and so on. So the first question I will ask you is, so how do your AI-driven tool ensure fairness and mitigate biases in the job matching and recruitment process, especially when working with diverse candidate pool? So this question comes from, the bigger discussion about biases that AI may have, as it basically is trained, and how does it work with your tool? So I would start. I don't know. Let's start from the other. We go with a different order. Marion, would you like to go first?
Yes, sure. So I would say that in our case, since we assess people on pretty much factual questions, or well, of course, there are scenario questions, how you would behave. It's very much only related to their specific job requirements. Like, how do you walk us through how do you install a plasterboard from this type of company or material producer, or what's the spacing between screws if you're doing a bathroom in this residential building. So very factual kind of questions, I would say. So there's not so much room for traditional biases. And of course, we take into consideration the language differences, jargon in different languages. And in the end, we give a report of the candidate, and it shows the candidate's answer, correct answer, which was given by the company, and also our AI grading reasoning, like why it gave its score. And it can be, it can be manually fixed if we see there's a mistake in AI grading, but since it's very transparent for everybody, like why it got that grade, we have pretty much eliminated bigger biases, I would say. I can't say 100% no bias because I don't think anything is like that.
Thank you very much. Really interesting to see your approach. Jānis, what about you?
Yeah, thanks. I think on a higher level, the approach is very similar to Werk's, right? You don't make a judgment using AI on the person as a whole, but you split it up into small requirements, and then the AI makes some sort of a call on that requirement, right? So be it, testing for specific things, or, asking like we do specific questions, right? So these are all factual, right? So we're not kind of, the tool is not really useful if you start asking things like, hey, would this candidate be a good fit for a job X, right? Which means you kind of give away that control, right? If you do, that's, again, it's just a bad use of the tool. But yeah, like once you start asking factual things, then the AI, again, I agree with Marion, I don't think we can eliminate bias, but it really reduces the scope of, is this true or not, right? And for that idea, there's less sort of scope for any potential biases to even creep in, because yeah. So I would say that, and of course, then similar to Marion's, you always have to, of course, check for errors, right? And we also have a feedback mechanism that every now and then the AI will make an error. I think it's pretty low, right? It's in the low percent digits, but then you can actually give us a thumbs down. Our engineers will take a look at what happened, and we'll try to work with this case to kind of get it out of the system. So, yeah, we're taking great care actually thinking about the biases.
Thank you. Really interesting also to see like similar approaches to these challenges of like eventual biases or errors. Ludger, what about SkillLab?
Yeah, that's. I think that's one of the reasons why I joined SkillLab. I worked in if it's AI or algorithms. For most people, it's not understandable how these work. It's very complex. And it starts, as Jānis also said, if you have an outdated CV, it doesn't work well. So it starts with proper data. And that's what I found so attractive, why I joined SkillLab. You literally give somebody in their hands a tool to build a own skill profile. And then the same as Jānis said, the matching is pretty factual. We just count the amount of skills you say you have and compare that to the vacancies needs of skills. And then we can see certain things. The AI could have forgotten to ask certain skills. So if we say to a person, okay, if you like this vacancy or this job, and this is your gap, and the person says, wow, but the skill in this gap I do have, then they can reclaim. Our first goal is to help people build a proper skill profile. And then with all my years of working in algorithms and job matching, I don't like job matching at all. So we use, we prefer to use the recommender engine. In the end, it's the person, him or herself, who chooses for a job. And they can be advised by parents, by a career counselor, by a job coach. But you need to choose yourself, and it should not be that the machine says, okay, this is your number one match. So that's what we try to do. Come up with a group of vacancies that match your profile, your skill profile. And on the other side, ensure fairness. What I said, we have, it starts with the skill assessment, building your skill profile, but we can show candidate pools to employers without any background, name, age, just a skill profile. And they see a number, and as soon as they say, oh, this person, with this skill set, I would like to interview, then they go back to the employment service and they get name, address, and can reach out.
All right, thank you. So it's really interesting to see. So your approaches, and it's also interesting to see from, like, in this case, my perspective of being outside this this world. It's interesting to see how the use of the tool is not really, as all of you basically mentioned, is not asking the tool, okay, who's the right person, and you decide. It's just a support to understand, like in the match, like in the real matching of skills, and understanding which skills are like fitting, like similar, and so on. So it's it basically answers my question of how do you avoid bias. Basically, you don't have the risk of having this kind of biases, as is like then a person that decides on facts and the match of facts. We concerning this, for example, just to have the like the share of opinion from the public. For example, they ask, in case, for example, we analyze a profile from LinkedIn, so the algorithm or the tool does not, for example, somehow picks first, let's say, a certain gender or certain I don't know, ethnicity and so on. So did you have this kind of case? Did you analyze this kind of errors and so on?
When we pull in, for example, profiles from LinkedIn, we don't add anything to the process. So LinkedIn already has their own algorithm based on the match of how you're searching, right? So to show some sort of an order, so we go by exact same order. So there's no, like, we don't want to interfere with that. And then the way, for example, in our tool, like the way all the candidates are sorted is they are rearranged in the additional order based on the priorities and the fits. So it's just a mathematical score. Okay. It's not even an AI solution. So yeah, but that's actually a good thing to always be checking. So
in our case, since we don't source candidates ourselves like that, or we don't use existing databases, we have sourced through Facebook marketing and so on to some customers. But I would say that the patterns that we have seen follow real world patterns, meaning that in the real world, if you talk to construction companies, they will tell you that certain skills are very well can be hired from a certain country, for example, because the work methods in that country are very similar to the work destination country. So, for example, good welders often come from Kazakhstan because they have oil rigs and there's, very many experienced welders. Good plasterers come from Uzbekistan because their work methods are similar to ones in Scandinavia. So these are the patterns that we have seen, that certain nationalities score higher in certain trades, but this just follows the real world patterns.
So it depends more on the skill, not, of course.
It depends on their experience. Yeah.
Yep. So I just check if we have similar questions to the topic. Does AI process also include checkups on transferable skills or soft skills, which display more like the character of the person? So I don't know. Probably.
We don't check soft skills.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I would agree. It's difficult to try and extract something like, I'm taking a look at somebody's CV, like, are they a team player? Right? So that would be a stretch and very kind of bias prone. You can ask things like, do they mention teamwork skills, right? So if you want somebody to have mentioned something like this, we have seen companies actually get pretty creative. So for example, if you want somebody who's results driven, you can ask questions like, for example, you're scanning a bunch of sales CVs, like, does this person mention specific KPIs in their resume, right? So that's like a proxy for what you're trying to get. And maybe, that resume might give you a bit of an indication, right? But yeah, it's we're not there yet in terms of the technology. So
yeah, in certain countries we've built in a kind of career exploration tests, especially for younger people who doesn't have so much work experience yet and didn't build up many skills. And basically, maybe those tests like the RIASEC from Professor Holland. These are tests where you choose between pictures or drawings of certain occupations and help people to to find what kind of jobs they are more interested in. And that says, of course, something about your personality and background.
Okay, interesting. Also, like on this other side of skills, or this different kind of skills, how does AI react, basically, or like how cannot, also in some cases. So I would move to the second question. So, what are some specific challenges or limitations that your company faces in applying AI to like job matching, and how you work to overcome these challenges that may rise? Again, Marion, would you like to go first?
Mm-hmm. I would say that the biggest challenge for our company is the quality of content that we have. So the library of assessments, and having a high quality library of assessments. So, of course, we don't have in-house knowledge of every experienced supervisor in every trade. So we have created these assessments together with different construction companies to kind of harness their knowledge, put it into AI, so to speak. And we've also partnered with material manufacturers, because they have very specific knowledge about their own materials, and they have training centers where they invite their customers to train on new products. So in the UK specifically, we're working with 7 of the largest finishing and interior sector material manufacturers who are creating their assessments on products for us to ensure that there's actually high quality assessment.
Thank you. Jānis?
Yeah, I would say, and I think it goes back to our previous discussion, AI can do its job only as well as it has data to work with. So we have a classic problem of recruitment. It's not even the AI problem, is that there are people, for example, on LinkedIn, who want to be found or are very open to sharing detailed information. And it's very easy to analyze that. Then there are people who have very brief, curt profiles. A typical question we get from recruiters, like, well, what about those, right? So, the way I then approach this is, yes, nothing has really changed, right? The way you would work as a recruiter, you would bring these, well-written profiles as your A list to your hiring manager. And if they don't respond, then we would go to the B list and try those out as well. But obviously, in my ideal world, everybody would have like really nicely written like company pages, like profile pages, so that the AI can actually do its magic. Right now, there's still this tail end that we have to work with. And the other thing is, currently we are seeing, we're very specific, we're more on the white collar jobs, right? These are the office jobs, people who do have LinkedIn's, good resumes and so on. So, we're not like expanding from there. I wouldn't call that a challenge, but it's just a conscious limitation of our niche. And I'm just very happy to hear from the rest of the speakers that to see like there's really good bubbling up of AI tools where, people who cannot do a CV well, we can still match them with the right thing. So, yeah.
Thank you. Ludger?
Yeah, again, it boils down to data. There's the great picture of a photographer who is fooling the algorithms of Google Maps. I think everybody likes Google Maps. And I think everybody trusts the algorithms. But what did this photographer do? He put in 100 telephones in a little basket and put them on a bridge. And suddenly Google Maps thought that there was a big traffic jam over there. So how good your AI or algorithms are, it starts with proper data. And you need to update that. And in the many years I worked in this area, I saw that, and I still see with generative AI, that people take a resume And then they say, oh, then I know your skills. But if I'm a warehouse employee at Amazon, or I'm a warehouse employee in a small, medium company, I have a complete different skill set. I do an invoice, I might pick up the phone. While at Amazon, I have a headset. I won't even see a forklift machine. It's all automated at the back of me. So I have a complete different skill set, although the same job title. And that's why I think that companies that use generative AI and say, oh, give me your resume and I tell you what you should do. I don't like that kind of matching. As said, it starts, if it's AI or algorithms, it starts with proper data. And I think the challenge we have is, and luckily ESCO is doing a great job there. You need to have living taxonomies. You need to update because the job market is changing. There are new jobs coming, and in the older days, the taxonomies were for the statisticians to compare to the past. But that kind of taxonomy you can't use in labor market matching. So you need to update it constantly. And that's what we see in other countries outside of Europe. There we do a lot of, our data science team does a lot of data and taxonomy work to help them build proper taxonomies.
That's an interesting that's an interesting point, interesting perspective of seeing data and the quality of it, and how can it affect like the matching process, like the efficiency of these kind of tools. And I think it's something that over time gets every time improved, but like every time changes, so it's like a constant process of updating this kind of data. Also concerning skills, as you were mentioning, different like same occupation may have different skills.
Exactly, yeah. And maybe one day the models are that big that we know from every company the culture and what's needed, but that'll take some time, I guess. On the other hand, AI is used to update those taxonomies, to crawl over the internet and to see new job titles and to build and update your taxonomies.
Thank you very much. So another question I wanted to ask you is, how do you see the role of AI evolving in recruitment over the next 5 years, let's say? And what skills should job seekers focus on to stay competitive in this kind of AI-enhanced hiring environment? So it's more about developing skills. Let's change again the order. Let's say we can start with Jānis.
Yeah, great question. As we actually have maybe a bit of a backstory. We have a second business called the AI Academy, where we teach AI, sort of general AI skills for business administration for companies. And when we talk to recruiters, what comes up usually is, they kind of see Hyperscan and other matching AI sort of matching tools on their end. But then we also tell them about the other side of the table, where there are tools like Lazy Apply, an AI bot that will literally apply in your stead, writing your entire resume, your CV, like your cover letter, and just sending out like hundreds of applications automatically. And we have seen this have a really big impact, especially in the United States, where we've talked to some customers and they say, like last year we tended to get, a couple hundred applications per job post, and now we're getting thousands of them. And you could see that there's GPT has really worked its magic on a lot of them. So that was like kind of funny, right? On one end, you have AI agents working on the.
Oh, I think we lost Jānis. I think he froze.
Sure.
Okay. Now we can hear you again, but we see you frozen. I don't know if you can hear us.
I hope I'm back. Sorry,
Okay.
I think
Now
there's an
we
issue with
can,
my internet.
now
Yeah. So I
you
don't know
move again.
where I where I dropped off. Thank you. Thanks 5G. Connected to my hotspot. But yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is that you have like AI on one side of the market and AI on the other side of the market. And for now, we haven't changed the actual process. We just have implemented little AI bots on an old process, right? So I think in the short term, as these things ramp up, the next couple of years, I think there'll be more noise in the system. But I think at some point, fast forward, maybe the 5-year horizon, is that these AI agents will start talking to each other, right? So the more my AI as a job seeker knows about where to apply, the better it can actually represent me in the labor market, and the better the other AI can understand my outlook is negative in the short term and positive in the long term, because at some point, this is very fuzzy matching, right? There should be no reason why I should have to apply to 300 jobs and why an employer should get 300 applications or 3,000 for that matter. This is inefficient, right? So maybe like if we do entrust the AI in the right kind of sense, right? It's like if it kind of can look for the right things, what we want to end up with is, hey, I have 5 people for my interviews, or I have really good 5 interviews, right? Maybe that might be not doable in the next couple of years, but I think at some point the clearing process of the labor market should be improved now that we can automate a lot of things that were previously just manual. So that is kind of my outlook. In terms of the skills, maybe let's leave it for the second part of the question, because I'm sure that my co-panelists have other ideas to mention here as well.
All right. So, Ludger, what's your opinion on that?
Well, first, I love what Jānis said. The machines are talking to each other, and they are deciding if I fit in a job or not. First of all, I think we need AI because many employment services face an aging staff. I think 30-40% will go into retirement in the next 5 to 7 years, if you look at the big employment services in Europe. So we need process improvements. And I think AI can help in those process improvements and building up a good skill profile, helping people there. But I'm sure if you look at job seekers themselves, they should train themselves and gain skills how to use AI. And I don't hope what Jānis said, that it becomes a fight between 2 machines who are going to decide. But we need those skills and learn.
Thank you. Marion, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, in our sectors, starting with the macro trends that we see, I would also say that the retiring of skilled labor, as mentioned, is going to be a big factor in turning to digital tools to find workers. So in construction, for example, over 40% of skilled workers are going to retire in the next 6 years. The average age of a skilled worker today is about 50. So what this means for the sector is that there's going to be a lot of new labor, and new labor is more unskilled than the ones who are retiring, or the labor is coming from abroad. And since the local trade schools are rather empty, the labor is more likely going to come from abroad. And this means that recruiters will have to rely on some tools that can find them in a large and multilingual candidate pool the exact skill match, and also they're probably going to upskill with AI workers as well. And we see that the AI can be used very well in upskilling, very targeted upskilling. If you know the skill gaps, you can do it bite-sized, so very short cycles of upskilling. So these are the trends that we see on the market. But from the worker side, I think they should be aware of the anti-cheats as well. I mean, we have implemented a lot of anti-cheat measures, and we will continue to improve them. But it seems that the workers themselves are not so aware that these exist.
That's a really two really interesting points. So the upskilling actually. So how does AI helps in focusing this kind of upskilling processes in to target, I think, some specific not only needs but also people, I think, to for this process. And also the anti-cheat question is also a point. So I think AI can really help in this process. So understand who does really have a certain skill and who's pretending to just to get the better position, to be better positioned on the eyes of the recruiter. Do the other two speakers have Jānis?
Sure. I wanted to add, sort of on the skills that will be necessary in this new AI friendly world. What we have seen a lot is skills that relate to communication, basic communication skills, because as employees, and again I'm talking more from the office employee side, right, the knowledge worker. Basically everybody now has an army of interns. Open your ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever. You have an intern at your disposal. So the question is now two things. Can everybody delegate tasks? Can you package what you need to do to an intern, to an assistant? Because it's everybody is a boss now, right? You just have these AI tools to boss around. And that's a skill to learn, right? And the second thing is, when ChatGPT appeared, there was a big talk of oh, you know what? I know how to write good prompts. I'm a bit of a prompt engineer, Well, maybe we should call them just good written communication skills. I can give tasks. I can provide context. I can explain things to someone, an artificial entity here, obviously. But so these are skills that are going to come very, very important, right? Because if we cannot delegate, if we cannot talk to these tools, then you just cannot get the value out of them. But if you can, that might 10x your productivity. So it's just this really interesting thing that we're already seeing in the society on this very macro level. Not to talk obviously, about bigger sort of job replacements and so on.
Thank you, Jānis. Really, really interesting. Ludger, did you have anything to add?
Yeah. You as a moderator, I hope AI will not replace you. But your colleague with AI skills will replace you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think it's the same if you go to car mechanics. You bring your car to a garage for maintenance. 20 years back, they didn't use computers. Now you can't do without to do the maintenance, to do diagnosis and all that. So jobs change and new skills come in. We need any surgery soon, but if you lay there in the hospital and you need surgery, there will be a robot surgeon. But I hope there's a human attached to it who operates it. And yes, cars will be more and more self-driving, but I imagine them on a highway, not in the mountains, on those narrow roads. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's stubborn and AI is better, but still. So I'm not so afraid that AI is replacing us, but it's replacing certain skills we use, and if we learn how to use it. So what Jānis said, prompt engineer, that was the first occupation mentioned. Well, that's just a task, as of many, which you now learn to use. So it'll definitely influence the labor markets, and we need to learn how to use it, and we need to learn new skills, because certain skills will be taken over.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear, and also anticipates a little bit like the last question, the closing question, as we are heading to the end of our time of in the webinar. So basically, you anticipated how can somehow AI influence the labor market. So in terms of skills that people need to develop. So and it's interesting to hear from, again, an external perspective, how some things that you don't consider, like communication, as Jānis was saying. So how do you basically prompt your your instructions to the AI, or how does a person with certain skills how this person can be replaced or will have better chances than like a person that does not have the same AI skills, or of, for example, prompting, or knowing how does it generally works. So the last question, of course, is on your perspective, how AI is already influencing the labor market in this sense, and what impact do you foresee on the employment dynamics, so the skill demand across the sectors? We can start with Ludger, probably for...
Yeah, as said, I think last year we had the EU Year of Skills.
Mm-hmm.
And many people think that the EU, that the whole skills approach is because of the lack of applicants. And that's, of course, a driver. But I think another driver is what's happening here on robotica, on AI, on skills that will taken over from us. And that's why you don't focus anymore on job titles, but on skill sets. And you are going to look which part of the skills that are very repetitive or not so funny to do could be done by a machine. I think in construction also, the lack of good construction workers I see in the Netherlands leads to more industrialized construction. And machines that are building walls, and they are just transported and put in the construction site. So it's a working together of new technologies that will take over parts of our skill sets, and that's why you constantly see you can't hang on to the old job titles anymore. It's more job roles, and which skills are now needed for these kind of job roles.
Mm-hmm. Wants to go next? Jānis?
Yeah, I can share, but a very fresh example. I was just reading some newsletters this morning before the webinar. The irony, I think, is when we thought maybe 5 years ago that at some point how do you call them? That robots would replace physically skilled people. It actually looks like the people in the office are going to be affected more than people actually building stuff, which is weird, right? And to go back to the example I just read, there's a good report about a guy in the US who works in local news production, right? The entire teams that kind of do audio kind of in the background, change like specific like video settings and so on. They basically have like production. And the case study here was that he was complaining on Reddit that, you know what, in our small news station, everybody was let go. There was one system that can do all of this, and it was so good that, as an experiment, the entire production crew was fired. And if it goes well, then that company will replace everybody doing production with AI. And for that company, it's one of the biggest local news producers. It's about 10,000 jobs in the US from just one system, right? So Sure, productivity gains are great, but it's kind of, I think for the next couple of years, we have to be realistic. It might get worse before it gets better, right? Because the people will need to reskill themselves, find something else, right? See where they add more value, more meaning, right? Than just mechanical sort of processing tasks, right? And then, of course, what Ludger said as well, right? For those that might not be fully replaced, do you have the AI skills to work with the tools, right? So that's another step up. So yeah, it's we're in here, we love it, but at the same time, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. It's going to be a large change in the society. We just have to kind of see what's coming, because it's coming really fast.
Thank you, Marion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can speak from the perspective of blue-collar sectors. And I would agree with Ludger that yes, there is certainly going to be a lot of automation. There has been a lot of automation happening last decade. Factories have replaced a lot of workforce with automation. So yes, machine operators are going to be in higher demand, but in construction sector, we don't see it really happening in the next 10 or even 20 years. There's just so many trades that need very high manual skills. Or replacing them with machines is a lot more expensive than labor, actually. So companies will be relying on skilled manual labor for, I think, the next 2 decades at least. But as Jānis said as well, the bigger change will be happening rather in the offices. I mean, construction companies as well, they have white-collar jobs as well. They will be influenced like any other white-collar sector. But on the site, with actual physical labor, we don't see it happening that much.
Thank you very much.
But I think that
sure.
AI tremendously helps in training people.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
It's called here the maintenance of our heating system. The person will come in, and I see him just on his phone with little video instructions doing his job, because he's not aware of the type we have. It's not that outdated. That's the same also in our app. Marion said before that in blue collar, especially if you look at ESCO nowadays, that the language is pretty difficult to understand. So we build in video films to give people an idea of the setting of a job, and that's in training, but also in understanding what are the job needs. So there's coming up so many new possibilities.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Training will be one of the biggest parts that will be an opportunity for blue-collar sectors, especially thanks to multilingual capabilities of AI. If we take construction sector, training has been a big issue in this sector. For example, we are in the UK market. UK market was affected by disaster a couple of years ago when the Grenfell Tower burned down, like about 100 people died. They had years of criminal investigation into this. They have now released these investigations to the public, and what turned out was that no one in this chain of building was training their employees. Everybody assumed someone else was competent. The material manufacturers didn't train workers or customers how to use their products or fire insulation correctly. So main contractors didn't have oversight. They didn't train their supervisors. Subcontractors didn't train their employees. So everybody assumed that somebody else was trained. But reality is that if you have tens of languages on a site and you have huge employee turnovers as well, it is not possible to train every day people coming on sites. But now with AI, you can do it fast, you can do it remotely in any language without taking time away from site teams. So we can actually expect higher quality in blue-collar sectors.
Thank you. It's I think it's the perfect ending of this discussion. So seeing this sort of complementarity that we are going to need, let's say, in the developing the labor market. So complementarity between skills that people already have and skills that they need to develop to, let's say, work also together with AI and with new technologies, and how also these technologies can help upskilling, so gaining more, being more efficient in the training, in getting everything better, in acquiring new skills that can be useful in let's say upcoming and future labor market. With this, I would like to thank you all for attending, and I would like to thank a lot the speakers that joined today. So Marion, Jānis, and Ludger, thank you for your precious contribution and presentation. Really interesting to see how practically AI tools can interact with job recruitment and what implications they can have in general in the labor market, in the recruitment process. And I take the chance to remind to everybody that is following us that the recording of the webinar is going to be available soon after this webinar ends, again on our EURES Webinar channel. I pasted in the chat box the link to the evaluation questionnaire, so please fill it in so we can always improve our webinars. And we will share with you, of course, the presentations so you can check them again if you have any doubt and question. So thank you all for interacting. Thank again to the speakers, and see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.